Hi, this is Sweet June coming back at you with another video. I told you guys yesterday, if you got a chance to catch the, you probably hadn't because haven't gotten a lot of clicks on it. Um, if you got a chance to watch the Ricky Smiley, I was talking about Ricky Smiley, daughter got shot, and it turns out she's going to be okay. If you haven't got a chance to get over there and check that video out, um, check it out. Talking about gun violence, and um, I was going to tell my story about um, gun violence came knocking on my door a few years back. I said I wasn't going to tell the story in that video, but I'm telling it in this video. That's what I want to talk about in this video. Gun violence came knocking on my door a few years ago. Um, I would say this happened back in, I want to say, got to think about the job I had at the time. I was working at an assisted living facility. Um, so that had to been back in 2010, maybe 2011, somewhere in there. Um, I was working at probably 2010. Might have happened the summer. I'm thinking the summer might have been the summer of 2010. I was working at um, an assisted living facility here, and I was working nights. And I was laying on my bed. I had to work the 10 to 6 shift. I was on the 10 to 6 shift. And I was laying on my bed, resting up um, before my shift, resting up for my shift. And my cousins, it was two cousins over here that night. And my son's friend and my other son was out here. Now you let other people tell it. I had a whole big crowd over here and was throwing a wild party over here. I mean, you let other people tell it, but I'll get back to that part. Um, but I believe it was two cousins here, my two sons, and my oldest son's friend. I believe my oldest son's friend was here. That's all it was here, basically. They was outside. It was after dark. And they was outside, hanging out. My cousin and my son was in my car. I think they were sitting in my car. This is back in 2010. And my other cousin, well, actually, he's my son's cousin, was standing out um, in the driveway, and some people came by, was driving down the street, and I'm going by what because I was in the house, so I'm going by what they told me. These people was driving down the street and they stopped, and he was at the end of the driveway, and he was talking to him. I don't know if he was talking to him, or if they had some exchange of heated words. I don't know. I don't exactly know what happened, what led up to the shooting, what caused these young men to want to shoot my cousin the way they did. But he was at the end of the driveway and he was talking to him, or whatever the situation is. And next thing you know, one thing led to another. All of a sudden, I was laying on the bed, half dressed, and I heard pop, 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 pop. And I instantly rolled over. At that time, my bed was facing a different position in the room. It was facing towards the other wall. And when it was in that position, I didn't have much room because my bedroom is small. So when the bed was in that position, I didn't have much room on the sides of the bed. I had a dresser on the side, but between the dresser and the bed, it was just a small little area, walking area, Um, so the bed being the position that it was in was not a whole lot of room on at least that side of the bed. And anyway, but I heard a pop, 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 and I instantly rolled over. I rolled, uh, and the covers went with me on the side of the bed, and I wound up on the floor because that was my first instinct when I hear gunshots is hit the deck, hit the deck. So I literally rolled over onto the floor with all the covers. I was rolled up in all the covers. When my son came in there and see me, I was laying between the dresser and the bed, rolled up in the covers. And my son came in there and said, "Mom, I think Window, that's his name. I think he was shot. Got shot." I said, "Oh my God!" And because at first I didn't know, because I didn't know what had happened. I didn't know if the gunshots were. They sound like they were very close, but I was like, again, I was not outside, so I didn't see anything. So when I first rolled over onto the floor with the covers with me, I kind of laughed at first because I thought it was funny that I had the covers. I was wrapped up in the covers and everything. And my son came in there and he said, "Mom, I think Wendell's been shot." I said, "Oh my God." And they brought him into the house and set him into the chair. And his mom came over, and his two aunties came over, and they was all upset and crying. And I think he got shot either two or three times. And of course I called in to work that night. I told him I got an emergency and I can't make it. And so they wound up taking him to the hospital, and he, thank God, by the grace of God, he was all right. I think as of today, he still has a bullet lodged in his leg, I think it is. They couldn't get one of the bullets out because when you get shot and a bullet is right up next to a nerve or something like that, the doctors don't want to touch it, because if they touch it, then they don't want to make cause further damage. So I think that was the bullet that they didn't remove because it was next to a nerve or something. But by the grace of God, he survived, and he wasn't killed. It could have been so much worse. He could have gotten killed. I felt really bad because it happened at my house, but it wasn't. Now, people people wanted to speculate. What made me angry is that people speculated and they automatically assumed that it had something to do with my oldest son. These were some people that he knew that did this, and um, people automatically blamed my oldest son. They blamed me because they said, "Oh, I had too many people at my house." Like, you would think that I was throwing a wild party over here with loads of people in the yard, and I kid you not, all I had over here that night was my two cousins, my son, my two sons. My youngest son was outside too, and his friend. That was all that was here that night. Pretty much mostly family. And so, but you let other people tell it I was throwing some kind of wild party out in the yard, and I had loads and loads of people over here. So a couple of my neighbors got angry with me because they think I had too many people out at my house and basically just had family members over here. And so I initially got blamed for it. Then they was trying to say my son was in a game. My oldest son, they was trying to say he was in a game. I was very upset by that. I was very upset, and that the fact that people would suggest. I knew in my spirit that my oldest son wasn't in the game, and it didn't even have anything to do with him. He didn't even know the guys that did that. It was somebody that um, it was somebody that my cousin knew. He knew them. Okay, so it had nothing to do with. It was a random thing. It had nothing to do with me, and it had nothing to do with my two sons. Because, of course, my other son was only 10 years old at the time. It had nothing to do with me. It had nothing to do with my oldest son or my other sons. It was somebody that he knew that did that he was beefing with for some reason or another, and they did that. Okay, but I was blamed for it, and my motherhood was taken. My mothering. That's why I don't judge these mothers on here on YouTube, and I don't badmouth them or bash them, because it was an attack on my motherhood. Trying to say that I wasn't a good mother, and I was a witness at the time. No, I was studying. I think I was still studying at the time. I think I was still studying, but I was actively going to the hall and all that. Because my son at the time was only 10, so he was coming with me to the hall and stuff like that. So, but I wasn't raising my sons right. My motherhood was all I was doing was going to work, coming home, taking care of business, taking care of my son, and going to the hall and stuff like that. And I would think I was going to school at the time. That's all I was doing. But my motherhood came into question because of that. I was blamed for it. I had too many people at my house, which that had nothing to do with it. I didn't have too many people at my house. My oldest son was in a gang. People tried to suggest that my oldest son was in a gang, and my oldest son had nothing to do with it. So it's speculating, and people passing judgment and try to make it seem like it was all because I had a drive-by shooting at my house. It was my fault. I somehow had something to do with it, or my oldest son had something to do with it, and it had nothing to do with us. His cousin knew the people, and he was beefing with them for some reason or another. He was beefing with them, and it was a random thing. I mean, he had no idea. He didn't see it coming. He had no idea, what was going to happen, and it was just something that happened. It was just something that happened. Drive-by shootings happen all the time in communities. There's another neighborhood, I think a couple of years back, across town. Some people just drove through the neighborhood, just started shooting randomly. And by the grace of God, no one was hurt seriously or killed. So sometimes drive-by shootings just happen. Sometimes people just driving by. This is how innocent people, innocent bystanders, and innocent children get hurt a lot of times, because they're shooting and they miss their intended target. And sometimes they shoot at houses. Now, my house didn't get, like I said, their intended target was him. He was in my driveway. So it had nothing to do with me, and it had nothing to do with my oldest son. And I really resented the fact that people were insinuating that it had something to do with me. And it had something to do with it. I was very upset. That's the reason why I don't badmouth these single mothers on here. I don't judge them. Um, because I was judged, and my motherhood was came into question because of something like that happened. And he was somebody that was always coming over all the time. He was always. I had been knowing his mom for years. I had been knowing him since he was a baby. Okay, so this wasn't just some random. This wasn't just some family member just popped up out of the blue. This was someone that I had been knowing him ever since he was a baby. I've been knowing his mom for years and years and years. Okay, so these wasn't just random people. There was nobody random at my house that night. There was nobody random here. But you let people tell it. I had a yard full of people at this house. I had so many people at this house, and that's the reason why it happened. And all I had basically here was family members for the most part. And I'm all of a sudden I'm a bad mother and I'm not raising my sons right because this happened. What the heck that I have to do with I'm going to the hall to work and to school, studying the Bible, trying to be a Christian, but I wasn't raising my sons right. Yeah. My youngest son was coming to the hall with me at the time. My oldest son wasn't, but my youngest son was. But I was a bad mother all of a sudden because this happened. I got blamed for it. I got blamed for it, and my oldest son got blamed for it. And it had nothing to do with neither one of us. It was just something that happened. So I just hate it when these types of things happen and people want to speculate. When these types of things happen, people want to speculate because they figure, it's got to be a reason why. Sometimes things just happen. Sometimes bad things just happen. They just happen. Sometimes guys just be driving through neighborhoods and just be shooting. That's what they doing. That's what they do. Okay. Now, by the grace of God, thank God, he was all right. He turned out okay. He's doing great now. I think he's still having some complications from the bullet being lodged in him, but he works. So he's gainfully employed. He's got a couple of kids. He's doing great now, and so I just thank God that his mom didn't have to bury her son. I did feel bad because it happened at my house. So quite naturally, I'm gonna feel bad because it happened at my house, but I had nothing to do with it. It just so happened, it happened at my house. He just happened to be at my house when it happened. So I just hate it when people speculate, like that when things like that happen. And of course, over time through my conduct, my neighbors were upset because because it did happen at my house, but I had nothing to do with it. I didn't know what to tell them, So it's just something that had happened, and I felt bad that it happened. I wish to God that it hadn't happened. But for a while after that, and I still think I'm dealing with. I had a little post-traumatic stress after that, and every time I would hear a car drive by, I would be on the floor. Because, I was afraid that, when something like that happens, you don't know if they're going to come back. I really was going through some things after that, and at nighttime, like I say, I would hear a car go by, I would be on the floor. My youngest son would be like, Mom, what you doing on the floor? And even now, though, I think I still... I get paranoid now. That's why I don't like the fireworks. I don't like the fireworks. They was doing the fireworks like 2 weeks before the 4th of July, and I was on pins and needles. I was at work one night and they was popping them off, and oh my God, it was freaking me out. I was so scared. It felt like they were gonna come into the building. And I went downstairs and talked to her, and she said, "You got me scared." I was freaking out, And so I didn't mean to scare anybody, but I get paranoid. I don't like fireworks because when I hear them, they sound like gunshots. And I get paranoid. On the 4th of July, I was fine because I knew, that's why they was doing it. But they was doing it like 2 weeks before the 4th. And I was like, oh my God, what is that? And some of it sound like gunshots. It's like you can't tell the difference. And if you guys get a chance, I did a blooper video. It's titled Blooper Video, I Heard Gunshots. I was getting ready to do a sound check because I was getting ready to do a video. And I heard these gunshots. If you guys will see the look on my face, it's terror. If you get a chance, go back, check that video out. Because if my son is not here, I hear gunshots, I'll go straight to the phone and start texting and, you all right? And I just get paranoid. So I am kind of still affected by it. But, gun violence is no joke, and it happens you know, like the little babies that got killed, you know, it's no rhyme or reason. It's things, it's just something that happens in the black community. It happens in the black community. All black communities all over the country, from small, uh, medium to large. And it doesn't get any realer than that. When it happens at your house, it don't get no realer than that. I said, now it doesn't get any realer than this. This came knocking on my door at my house. It don't get any realer than that. And I used to think that this city, because I live in a small city, and I used to think that, you know, I was safer here, more safer here than I was anywhere. And now I don't feel that way anymore. I feel like the same things that can happen to me in another city can happen to me here. So I said, so it don't make no sense for me to be scared to go nowhere. You know what I'm saying? Because I figure the same things can happen to me here. There can happen to me here. Because it doesn't get in, it changes your perspective on things when it happens at your house. And it doesn't get any realer than that. It just doesn't get any realer than that. So I say it can happen. The same things can happen to me here. That happens can happen to me anywhere in any city. So I'm not so scared anymore to go somewhere else. You know what I mean? So I used to feel so safe here, but I don't feel safe here. I don't feel any safer here than I do anywhere else. Matter of fact, I went to Los Angeles and I think I felt safer down there than I did up here. It's a little bit more detrimental in a smaller city, you know. Well, a big city, you got more places to run. But you know, it's just, yeah, it's. So I just wanted to tell that story, you know, give you guys that story, and yeah, I remember it being very stressful. I just thank God that it wasn't any worse than that, and he made it. He survived. His mother didn't have to bury her son, and um, yeah, so it can happen anywhere. It can happen. Doesn't a person doesn't have to. It can happen at anybody's house. It can happen at your house. It can happen at anybody's house, and you ain't got to be doing nothing. It's just something that happens in the black community. It happens in black communities all across the country. So I just know that it needs to stop. The gun violence needs to stop. You know, we lost too many people. We're losing too many people. It's just really sad. It's just pray it, wish and pray, and that it would stop. Okay, I just wanted to tell you guys that story. If you're new to my channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Make a comment below, hit the like button, and make sure you hit that notification bell so every time I do a video, you will be notified. And share this video. Stay tuned. I got another video coming up. I don't know when this is going to get uploaded because it's a little long, so it takes forever on my phone to get uploaded. But you'll either get it today or you get it tomorrow. I was going to do another video today, but I don't know. You either get that today or tomorrow. Until then, stay safe, wear your mask, wash your hands, maintain proper social distancing. Peace and love. This is Sweet June.